Thanksgiving night, a train crew slammed its brakes to a shrieking stop after a screaming white figure appeared beside a bridge and vanished into the dark. What they didn't know at the time was that this haunting had been repeating for decades, ever since a catastrophic train disaster claimed 2 men in a way so violent it left a legend behind. This one brings us to Geneva, New York. That's the state with that really big city that smells like the Dutch. Every other holiday has a ghost, and Thanksgiving isn't any different. It's just a little surprising. I mean, nothing bad ever came out of that day for any person or group of people, right? Hold on, my producer is talking in my ear. Oh? Well, that was disappointing to learn. Anyway, let's get into the ghost story. It takes place back in 1902, a few years before the world was going to start having fun with the Great Worcester Airship hoax, which I covered in my book. Wait, I have a book? Hey, yeah, look at that. Well, that's fun. Anyway, it was the night of Thanksgiving and the train was approaching Marsh Bridge in Geneva. It's bad enough when you have to work on Thanksgiving, but things were about to get weird for the engineer and fireman driving this thing. They were both in the train's, cockpit, engine car, driver's seat. I don't know, I'm not a train guy. By the way, the fireman wasn't the fire extinguishing kind. This was back in old-timey days when you needed someone shoveling coal into a furnace so you could get to dinner before you died of old age by walking home. So the train was approaching the bridge when both men heard a piercing, blood-curdling scream ahead. They both looked up and saw the exact same thing. A pure white figure stood just to the side of Marsh Bridge and frantically waved its arms in the air. The engineer, most likely muttering about already working a holiday and now having to deal with this, immediately stopped the train. As soon as he did, the figure screamed again and faded in front of their eyes. Now, despite you shouting, "Don't go out there," at them, that's exactly what the two men did. They disembarked the train and searched the tracks for signs of anything that could explain what the hell just happened. As they neared the bridge, it happened again. An ear-piercing shriek, this time disembodied, broke through the air, and that was enough. The engineer and firemen ran back to the train, throttled that thing up, and crossed the bridge. They didn't stop until they finally pulled into the destination station and put it all behind them. Once they were, docked, parked, chillin'. Like I said, I'm not a train guy. They told the station workers what they saw and heard. Rather than being met with gasps and gaping jaws, they just got a big old, yeah. Turned out they weren't the first ones to see or hear this Thanksgiving haunting. The other workers then told them the story of the Marsh Bridge ghost. In the even old-timier year of 1873, a different train with a different set of engineer and firemen headed to that very same bridge. Things wouldn't turn out as well for them, though. They reached the Marsh Bridge and headed right over it, completely unaware of the fact that floodwaters had washed out the supports that kept it standing. The bridge collapsed underneath them, and the first 3 cars of the train fell right into the raging waters below, taking the engineer and firemen with them. Luckily, it stopped at the baggage car, so none of the passengers suffered the same fate. Not that this would matter to the 2 men who would never be seen alive again. The flood waters continued to rage, making it impossible to mount any rescue efforts, and it wouldn't be until the next day that any help could set off to find them. Needless to say, no living souls were pulled out of the water. The engineer, a man by the name of Ignatius Bwelt, was quickly found by the wreck of the train. The discovery of the fireman, one Augustus Sipple, wouldn't happen for yet another day. The waters were so powerful that night they pulled him downstream and left him stuck in deadly quicksand that claimed his life. It was a sad and cruel ending for men just doing their jobs. It goes without saying that lawsuits flew after the accident. People from all around the area accused the people responsible for the bridge of letting it fall into disrepair long before the flood. That made it much easier for the waters to claim it and the lives of the men running the train. Oh, it's called an engine. What stands out, though, is the fate of Ignatius Bwelt's body. He was taken to a cemetery in a carriage, but wasn't allowed access. There was a rule in place that limited the number of carriages allowed in the cemetery at the same time, and it was a busy day for burying. The sexton just could not even with him and refused to help. That was when the mourners took matters into their own hands. They lowered him into his final resting place on their own with no religious service to help him on his way to eternal rest. It's said this was the deciding factor in this tragedy and why he still haunts the bridge to this day as the Thanksgiving ghost standing and shrieking next to Marsh Bridge. So that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this haunting story, please consider becoming a part of the Slightly Odd Society on Patreon. You'll get access to lots of exclusive articles and videos from around the country. There are plenty of tiers to choose from, and you'll get some sweet swag as well. Thanks for watching, and thank you for being odd.